Mr. Vladimir Ashkenazy, you will have several concerts with the Philharmonia Orchestra this season about Sibelius music. Tell me about this cycle.
The Philharmonia Orchestra, they want to, of course, um, to make a special point in the year that is connected to Sibelius' life, as you know. They wanted to have a series of Sibelius concerts in London, and of course, Pekka Salonen is doing some concerts, but he didn't want to do it completely, all of the Sibelius. So he asked the Philharmonia to ask somebody else to do some concerts too. So I'm doing, I think, 2 or 3 in London, and the rest he is doing, you see?
Yes.
So he's a good friend, and he didn't want to do everything by Sibelius. He said, ask somebody else, like me, for instance. So they did, and I'm doing, first of all, our first concert, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
I'll just open my book. It is in March, okay? We're doing a Lemminkäinen suite, okay? Hello.
Yeah.
And then in May we are doing what is it? Sibelius 5, I think, and yet another week I think we have Sibelius 2. Anyway, it's all sort of spread out, and of course, yes, we're going Sibelius 2 in June. And of course, so I'm given a very good Sibelius symphony, so I'm very grateful to Pekka Salonen. He's a good friend.
Yes.
But he's doing, of course, also a lot of Sibelius. So it's divided between us two.
Yes. But you have conducted a lot of Sibelius concerts.
Yes, not everything, but a lot, yes.
Yes, and of course you have recorded all his symphonies with Philharmonic Orchestra.
I did all the symphonies with the Stockholm Philharmonic Orchestra, yes. And before that with the Philharmonia Orchestra of London a long time ago.
Yes. So what do you think is the most important thing you want to emphasize when you work Sibelius music with the orchestra? What kind of interpretation are you looking for?
You know very well that it's impossible to answer this question. Yes. Because the spirit of music is something that you can't put into words, right? All my life, I try to identify with the spirit of music from Bach to Sibelius to Tchaikovsky, you name it. I don't know how successful I am, of course. I try to do my best. Sometimes I succeed, sometimes I don't. But to put it into words is impossible, because music says everything that it has to say, and words will be unnecessary and superfluous. So, sorry for this difficult answer. But, of course, as you know, Sibelius had his own idiom, and very special and unique. And to me, it makes a tremendous sense. I identify with it. Of course. And to explain it is very difficult.
One thing I'm interested in, you already told that a long time ago, is it over 30 years ago, you you recorded Sibelius symphonies with Philharmonia Orchestra. So
yes.
How do you find, what is the difference between you conducting Sibelius now and then?
Well, again, I can't say. You see, all your life, if you're a musician, if you're a committed musician, you always think of this piece which you conducted or played before. I mean, I have a huge repertoire as a pianist, of course, and as a conductor. And I look for instance, today people tell me I have to do Beethoven symphony in a few days, okay, or in a few months. So it comes, and of course I've done it many times. And I look again, and maybe because of development of my mind, I hope so. Maybe will do more justice to the music without knowing exactly what. But if you're a committed musician, you always think of what you're doing and how you're going to convey to the audience the spirit of the composer. It is a never-ending process. So one only hopes that one does more justice to the music with the age, or maybe not sometimes, you never know. But you can't say how different it is. It's impossible.
Yeah.
You see, all you do is try to convey the spirit of the composer, spirit of the piece, as well as you can. Maybe you'll do it better sometimes, maybe you'll do it worse, but you don't know.
Yes.
It is only to the audience to decide whether it is convincing or not, and they will know. And you do your best. That's all you can do, and you're not a great judge.
Yes.
You see?
Yes. Vladimir Ashkenazy. So you started as a pianist, and later on you have worked both as a pianist and as a conductor. Sometimes you do it simultaneously.
It was totally unexpected that I would become a conductor. It just happened.
How do you balance nowadays with these two roles?
Well, I don't play public concerts as a pianist not anymore. I must say I play on two pianos with my son, two-piano repertoire. But I thought that to play a lot as a pianist myself, maybe it's enough. And
yes.
I'm afraid not to do quite as well as I would like to. So, but I practice every day. I record as a pianist. Actually, my recording of dedicated to Scriabin is coming next week,
yes.
or next month, maybe. It was dedicated to 100 years since Scriabin's death in 1915. It was in April, so the record is coming out now. So I do work as a pianist all the time, but publicly not so much. So I conduct much more publicly.
Yes. So what kind of perspective do you think that being a pianist has given you to your role as a conductor, and maybe vice versa? What kind of advantage maybe, or what kind of thoughts has your role as a conductor given you to your piano playing?
Well, music, of course, is music. Okay, in a way, musical roles and musical expression is inseparable. You can't divide. You can divide music into different categories, like instrumental, orchestral. It's only for the convenience of knowing what it's written for, who should play, and who should perform. But the meaning of music, a meaning of a Beethoven Great Sonata, or a meaning of Beethoven Great Symphony, the meanings are on such a high level, it is unattainable for us. So you have to think of that music not thinking of what is it, piano or orchestral music, but you think of the laws and meaning of the music first, and then you see how you do it. If it's for the piano, obviously it's a different situation because it's one instrument, but the laws of music and a meaning of musical expression and the final thought of the composer, what he wanted to say. That is the most important point, you see.
Yes.
So I always think of music on that level. And of course, I'm very grateful to my destiny that I could play a lot of music on the piano, and I could conduct too. But the basic laws of music are inseparable. Except, of course, you have to know how to do it with a symphony orchestra, and you have to know how to play an instrument to convey the right expression, the right spirit of the piece. So it's an issue that is very difficult to explain. You see, musical roles are basically unified, and if music is composed for different performance on piano, violin, quartet, symphony orchestra, but the basic roles are the same, you see.
Yeah.
But they are better suited for, in certain case, for this or for that or for that, you see. That depends on the composer's idea of what would be the best for this particular idea. And the great composers, of course, did absolutely great service to all of us by doing just the right thing. You know, you can't imagine playing Beethoven's 7th Symphony on the piano. Of course, it would sound terribly well. It's a different concept. And yet, Pathetic Sonata is better on the piano than if you orchestrate it. But having said that, the basic spirit, the basic level of expression is unified. There and there and there. It is by a great composer who conveyed to us something that you can't express in words.
Yes. Let's go back.
So, it's complex.
Yes, it is.
It's complex and simple at the same time.
Yeah. So, let's go back to Sibelius shortly for the end. So, now is the 150 years celebration, and I'm wondering why is it important that we celebrate, for example, now this year's Sibelius?
Well, I don't see anything negative about this. Why? We pay our respect and homage to a great spirit of Sibelius, and it is, I think, natural that we would like to convey to the public again what we think about Sibelius, how great his music was, is. We do it with the great composers all the time, but why not? It attracts people again to the great music. It's nothing wrong about it. It's not a hype, you see. It's not a hype. It's just our respect to a great person who gave us so much, and we want to pay our respects yet again on this day of the that is connected with his life, you see.
Yeah.
So I think it's not negative. It just attracts the musical world and people who are interested in music and people who might be interested in music and will be if we do it very well. I think it's very good. I have nothing against it. It's not a hype.
Yes.
It's just great respect to a great person.
Yes, that was really nicely put. For the last question, Mr. Vladimir Ashkenazy, do you have a favorite composition from Sibelius music? If you have
Sibelius?
Yes, if you have to pick one, what would you take?
Impossible. No, it's impossible to say.
Okay, we will take them all, have them all.
No, yes. I can't say that. When I conduct Sibelius, each time I do this symphony or that symphony, I think that's my favorite. Tomorrow I do another one, think that's my favorite. I can't say that. No, yes. You see, it is the spirit of the composer that attracts me so much, and it shows itself in different directions sometimes, in different moods, and so impossible to say that.
Yes.
I can't say. Let me. You know what I'll do? I'll ask my wife what she thinks. Dodi. Dod. Yes? If you were asked what is your favorite Sibelius, what would you say?
Oh my God.
Impossible, huh?
So much.
No, maybe you say Tapiola, the last piece. That was the last piece, yeah? Huh?
Well, the first Sibelius I ever heard when I was a child was Sibelius too, so I was very close over, simply because it was a What often she that? I was 11, you know.
It's impossible. My wife,
Yes.
she's Icelandic. She was the one who really introduced me to Sibelius about more than 50 years ago when we met before we even got married. And by the way, yesterday was 54 years since we got married, yesterday.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Anyway, she introduced me to Sibelius because in Moscow, Sibelius was played, but not so much. The violin concerto, sometimes some symphony, but not very much. So, and she brought with her, when she came from London, although she lived in London, although she's Icelandic, she brought with her some recordings of Sibelius 2, something else, I can't remember now, but number 2, about the first time I heard it on her tape. And I was very interested and very affected by this symphony in a very positive way. So I started getting records of other Sibelius too. I managed to get some, and I started learning more and more about Sibelius. That's how it started. So she introduced me really to the great music. And now I asked her, what do you think is your favorite? She said, impossible to say. Impossible. I can't say what's my favorite.
Maybe that was an unfair question.
It's unanswerable question. Yeah. But what I could tell you, maybe it's not, Tapiola, of course, is one of my favorite pieces, I always think of it with a special mental attitude. I love it very much. I've done it many times. And I always think, what a shame that he never composed another orchestral piece after that,
Yes.
That was his last piece. Am I right? Yeah, that was his last piece. And I read about the state of mind of Sibelius, that he did try to compose Symphony Number 8, and apparently he burned it. People told me when I went to his house in Järvenpää that is the fireplace where he burned his 8th symphony. I don't know if it's correct or not, but that's what I was told. So I find it such a shame that he was so insecure probably at that time. But I'm sure his 8th symphony would have been great too. Anyway, Tapiola seems to be the last big piece, maybe the last piece he composed. And you could say that, I don't know if it's my favorite piece, but it's one of them too. And I think of it always with a great admiration, of course, and always regret. Why didn't he compose after that to leave us more of great music?
Yes. I have to ask still. I am a Finnish person, so I think for me and for all as Finns, Sibelius music is about beautiful music but very much Finnish values and nationalistic values. I don't know if there is a different what Sibelius music means to us Finns and what it means to the world.
I see what you mean. Yes, you are basically asking whether the idiomatic expression of Sibelius is understood by people from other parts of the world, right?
Yes.
I think yes. And I ask these questions everywhere that I go, And I know that in the UK, in London, in the UK generally, they feel that the Sibelius is just like an important part of their musical life. Absolutely. One of the essential parts. In America also.
Yes.
In other parts of the world, I'm sure in Russia too, but I don't go to Russia so often. It's difficult for me to give you a clear idea. But I know that in the UK and in America and in many other parts, Sibelius is respected and admired, and they feel that it's very essential to have his music. In Germany too, I'll tell you one very interesting thing. when I conducted a lot in Germany with the Deutsche Symphony Orchestra, I did not so much Russian music or Sibelius, but when finally I did some Sibelius, they said, "Oh, why don't we play more of that? It's so fantastic, so great." So, I think they do react too in Central Europe too. And in many other countries, of course, in Holland, very much. In Germany, in Germany, it's a little more complex because the German music, as you know, is incredibly important from Bach to Richard Strauss, and Beethoven and Mozart and Haydn, although the Austrian element, but they're still considered German, Schumann and Wagner and everything. So I don't need to tell you how important German music is. And so very often the attitude to other music is not negative, but because the German music is so important and so prevalent in Germany, of course, that it's sometimes not easy for German musicians to be free and open their minds to other type of expression. But they do it in any case. And Sibelius is also respected very much in Germany. So I think by now Sibelius is considered everywhere as one of the extremely important people in great music. One of the on the highest level, I think, by now. It probably takes time sometimes because his music was so special and so individual. But it's there now and will remain there forever.
Yeah.
I know the importance of this music. It is eternal. It's our belonging to the world, you see? That's what it is.